The finale of Spy Psychology: How to Trickstab Everyone by Jonto. Amazing. I loved it. Very short and to the point.
Now. It's finally time to talk about the very cool, epic thing that every new spy wants to learn. Trickstabs.
Unironically, I'm not super fascinated by trickstabs. I'm more fascinated by being a support. I'm the weird one in the room.
But I've saved this as the final episode for a reason.
Yeah.
Trickstabs alone are not what make you a good spy, and it's very helpful to have a good grasp on the basics of spy to help you learn trickstabbing.
Oh, absolutely.
Most notably for this, it's very good if you have an understanding of disguise acting, cloak illusions, paranoia, learning from mistakes, and basic class matchups.
Wait, what does any of this mean?
Oh, what's the other videos? So even if different players care more about trickstabs than others, it's still a good thing to at least have in your back pocket. So whether you intend to go all the way and make frag movies, or just want to keep trickstabs as a wild card within a traditional spy playstyle, this is the beginner's guide. But anyway, trickstabs. They're loosely defined as pretty much any method of getting a backstab that isn't just walking up behind them. There are many different types of trickstabs, and they aren't all created equal. Some are easier, some are more common, and some are really oddly named.
The Circle Strafe 4.1, let's go!
Yeah, okay. I'll admit a lot of trickstab naming is a complete mess. A lot of spies can't even agree on the names of different techniques, so there isn't really any right or wrong answer for it. Just go with whatever feels right to you.
What was it that I was talking about? Oh god, it was a Final Fantasy 14 thing, and it was a conversation about Armad Rev was having it, and they were doing prog on something when Dawn Trail launched. No, this was back in Endwalker. I'm sorry, back in at the end of Endwalker, like 6.5, and they're talking about prog on this like raid, and they're because they shorthand everything, right? How you'll hear people who just say like, yeah, like you see like train stabs, right? How it's shorthanding a concept, so you get like lesbian scissoring ice cream or something like that, and it's like, people know what's going on. Like, the lingo makes sense to people that you're clearly communicating the concepts. I love it. I love when things get truncated.
Like, yeah, this soldier rocket jumped at me and I got some weird combination of a matador corner and a stair stab. Like, I get what happened, but I'm not even gonna bother naming the stab. Like, no, it's just a stab that happened. As you learn trick stabs, there'll be times where you didn't really know what you were doing because you got it by a complete fluke. But not me. I'm experienced and never rely on luck. Yep, you see, I definitely knew that medic was there the whole time. Plus, it's a video game. You don't always have to take yourself super seriously. Trickstabs are cool as hell, but when you try too hard to be cool, it kind of becomes edgy and implodes on itself. The terms I use in this video should be the generally accepted ones. But what's more important is you understanding how they work than what overly verbose name you or others may give them.
Right. Which is common sense.
Trickstabs themselves are a mix of mechanical skill and mind games. As a quick refresher, the back hitbox is simply the back half of a player, based on their view, not the model itself.
Right.
There is this knife raising animation that indicates when you're in range, but you do not and should not need to wait for it.
I actually really love this refresher, because this is refreshing content from videos and videos ago, but these are good reminders, and that's why we had an entire series literally leading up to this.
As you learn to play spy, you should begin to get a feel for when a backstab is possible and eventually get most of your stabs before you even see the animation. Seriously. Don't rely on the animation because backstabs can come and go extremely fast. By the time you notice the knife go up, you'll often have missed it.
Yep.
And if you're really struggling, type this command into your console to disable the view models so you can't even look at it. This is especially...
It blows my mind that you can do view model things and hitbox things like this in TF2. It blows my mind that you can have client-side mods in TF2. Most modern games would ban you so quick. Like this game feels like it's perfect almost. Like, don't get me wrong, it has its flaws, the whole bot waves, etc. accounts getting compromised and inventory is completely flushed out. Like, I get it. There's contention with spy. Totally get it. But, like, it's wild how much this game treats itself like a game and not how modern gaming studios treat their live service. It blows my mind.
It's really important with Trickstabs because they happen so incredibly fast. So fast that due to latency and lag compensation, it can actually look like a face stab on the victim's end, where for you, it usually looks perfectly fine. I said usually it looks perfectly fine. So, speaking of lag, the speed of your connection can significantly affect how Trickstabs feel to execute. Trickstabs are more reliable at lower ping, but are still doable at higher ping if you compensate for the timing. And again, there are many different types of Trickstabs.
So when are we getting the challenge video where somebody plays at like 2,000 ping and they have to Trickstab? I feel like that'd be really funny to watch.
Some are easier than others. Some don't even involve being chased or shot at and are just fancier ways of getting a normal backstab, like the drop stab. And some have the victim not even be the guy that was actually shooting at you, like the surf stab. But there are so many techniques because they're all for different situations. Even then, they don't always work all the time, no matter how good you are. Frag movies can be a really cool highlight reel, but they are just that, a highlight reel of their best moments. They don't put in all the bits where stuff like this happens.
This is a firefight.
And stuff like this will happen to you. It will. You'll misjudge something, you'll make a silly mistake, you'll mess up. But a big reason a lot of Trickstabs fail is because the spy telegraphed their attacks.
Have we learned nothing from Dark Souls?
This is a common hurdle for players first learning to Trickstab. They focus too hard on the mechanical execution of the stab and forget about what the other player is seeing and how they might react. Oftentimes they've accidentally telegraphed their attack, allowing the other player to react and avoid it. The way you behave can often give away what you're about to do to the enemy, and it's something you need to take into account. Sure, you may have practiced stair stabs on bots that are guaranteed to walk in a straight line, but if you stand still on a flight of stairs and wait for a real player, they'll turn it from a stair stab into a stair stab.
I mean, this is completely like reasonable though. Like, so what you're doing, the core concept behind doing the stair stab training, right, where the bots are moving in a straight line, all you are doing is training your mechanical ability to. Why does this face remind me of the long dog meme? Oh my god! But you're just training your mechanical ability. Yes, you should know when you are this far behind a target, you will be able to consistently pull off a trick stab. Like all you're doing is training muscle memory and being able to execute that. That says nothing to actually going against a player. Like, yeah, I think this is correct. Like, it will turn from a trick stab or a stair stab into a stare STARE stab, right? And you're just gonna stare at each other. You'll have the mechanical skill, right? And this is where this is the opposite. So this series, right, is very bookworky, right? It's very meta knowledge, right? And this is where you have the mechanical ability, but you don't have the meta knowledge of, say, how the medic at the bottom of the stairs is going to react to you trying to trick stab him, right? Like, this is the inverse of what we've been discussing.
In this example, where I'm playing medic, a spy decloaks in front of our spawn. I go to chase him and whoopsie, just did a little strafe wiggle, which is a telltale sign he's going to try and trick stab me. I refuse to approach him, he rounds a corner and oh boy, I wonder what he's going to do now. I refuse to get into his melee range, kill him, and then taunt because of how blatant his trick stab.
Karma arrives in the form of the second spy.
Again, be wary of the information the enemy is seeing.
Much like the Spanish Inquisition, no one expected the second spy.
Or lack thereof. They're most effective when the victim gets little to no warning whatsoever. Not only that, but you can also feed them false information. Making it unclear or misleading as to what you're going to do next gives you a higher chance of success.
I was about to say, just fight. You don't even care if the shots hit at that point because of deviance, right? Because of deviation on the shots. You're telegraphing that you're trying to go for your firearm to be the finishing blow, to which you hot swap to your knife while doing a passing step to trick stab them. Brilliant.
It's the same theory as the cloak illusion. You mislead a player by running one way while cloaking, then abruptly changing direction once you're completely invisible,
right?
Making them try to find you with false clues. This is why something like the corner stab works. Yes, once you round the corner, you abruptly stop and wait for the enemy, which would be a dead giveaway, but there is a solid wall blocking them from seeing said giveaway.
Right.
This makes it look like you kept running when you, in fact, did not. If they suspect a corner stab, they can either wait for you to come back or take the corner wide.
Right.
But if they're wrong, they just gave you extra time to escape.
Right.
And this sort of thing doesn't just apply to corner stabs. Here, I'm using a wall to block what would otherwise be a blatantly obvious stair stab.
So at that point, you don't even really care about the decloaking noise, right? Because they clearly know, like that becomes the worry, right? Obviously, you're trying to drown it out within the chaos, right? But there is a telltale sound on most decloaking, right? One of them has a no decloaking sound, right? But like, I'm trying to figure out the actual meta thought process behind the corner stab, right? Because if you go behind the corner and then you decloak so you can get the stab off, do they not know that you're behind the corner? But then again, that's also giving people benefit of the doubt that it's operating in a vacuum where they're going to, 1, understand the decloaking sound, 2, be able to react to it, 3, be able to organically adjust to that information. And even then, you can just, if you feel that it's going to be a losing situation, you can just bounce. I also posit as well that I understand, I guess, Spy isn't played in competitive, but I also don't know what the metagame comp looks like. What is the meta six-man stack? I'm very curious.
But remember that the knife isn't your only weapon. For you see...
Wild. It's such a good joke. I love it.
If someone isn't falling for your trick stabs, you can of course just shoot them instead, as that can get you out of a whole bunch of situations, especially when they were expecting a trick stab instead. However, the gun isn't the thing that insta-kills. All they need to do is rush you down before you can hit too many shots or get away. They can run right into your melee range. But, while you're shooting them with your gun, you can remind them, Spy has a knife! In the same way players don't expect a trick stabbing spy to suddenly shoot them, they don't expect a spy using their gun to abruptly go for a trick stab.
I really feel like this it's not so much subversion as like it showcases mastery. And with mastery, right, like you're able to not necessarily know the rules and then be able to break it, but be able to come to conclusions like this, right? The spy has a knife. Right? The reason that this was posited at the end versus at the beginning is to train players to not rely on the knife so much. Hey, you do have the ambassador. You do have the Diamondback. For those who do use the Diamondback, we're going to try it out on the Funny Purple app, and I'm going to organically react to the Diamondback. Let's put it that way. Like, it's training you to not use the knife, but this is also reaffirming you do have the knife. If you're in a situation, then the knife happens to just be the best tool for the situation, just use the knife.
It makes players overconfident in their ability to rush you down, and if you're able to quickly think on the fly, you can punish that overconfidence.
That poor
This
demo
clip is a
knife.
good example. This spy here is expecting me to have a knife duel, but I notice his health is low, so I just pull out my gun and finish him off. However, the medic, seeing I just pulled out my gun, decides to rush me down.
Right.
But I pulled the old switcheroo and swap back,
Yep,
immediately
hop, swap.
catching him with a matador.
There was a chess game that happened in that instance, and it's actually why I love doing SCA things and like sparring things. Like, there are moments where time just stops. They're very rare, but they happen, and it's great. There's an entire like infinity that happens in a fraction of a second.
Gun is basically a magnet that draws players towards you.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily shoot the gun specifically to get the player to approach you, but if you notice that they are, you can suddenly decide to attempt a trick stab with literally no warning. Speaking of trick stabs with no warning, if you're already decent at disguise acting, you can actually use trick stabs against players that fall for your disguises. You can often pretty easily guess where they'll walk, and they can't really see a trick stab coming if they don't even know you're a spy in the first place.
Right.
As mentioned in the last episode, you can even disguise as a teammate so enemy players will charge at you thinking you're a different class. Inversely, when players do figure out your disguise, you can catch them off guard with a trick stab by simply pretending not to notice them. By not looking at them properly, it tricks them into thinking you're not paying attention.
Right.
Like this guy here has figured out that I'm a spy, but he hasn't figured out that I've figured out that he's figured me out, so I've figured out that he's gonna run at me, so I figured out that I can do a funny sidestep, and bam! But just the same way that using the same disguise will decrease its effectiveness, the more you attempt trick stabs, the more people catch on.
And this plays back into one of the prior videos, right? This plays back into I believe it was the paranoia video, like train your opponent, right? Yeah. So if you're going to train your opponent that they're looking for the trick stabs, then you start pulling out your piece and trying to ambassador them, right? It's going to throw them for a loop. And chat has it correct. I think chat is onto something here, where people have gotten so used to spies either going for the epic trick stab gimmick or then their funny gun spy. But if they do both and they swap in between, suddenly their brain just doesn't function, right? Imagine you run half of a match and you're doing epic trick stabs to the point where the enemy team is actively like, okay, we need to prevent this, right? And they play into that. And then suddenly you're like, oh, by the way, I have this ambassador, and you're actually a god with it, and you're getting your crits. That's going to throw them way off. It's not coming right out the gate blazing, but you're drip feeding them information to direct them in a certain way, and then capitalizing on their understanding, or rather misunderstanding, of where your skill level is at.
In-the-moment telegraphs aren't the only way your trick stabs can be predicted.
Right.
As mentioned in the paranoia episode, people can learn and adapt from your patterns. If you like to trick stab a lot, some players may catch on and be far more wary than usual. Some players can even tell right away how likely you are to trick stab based on other strategies you're using.
Right.
But again, it's different for different players. Some players are better at seeing the warning signs than others, and some know better how to react to them. Imagine each player as being somewhere on the spectrum of trick stab vulnerability.
Sure.
On the far left, we have maximum obliviousness. They don't know pretty much any of the warning signs of trick stabs, let alone how to react. They're often just new and might not even know trick stabs exist.
Right.
Needless to say, they're pretty easy to fool, especially if they are playing Pyro. At around the middle, we have the trick stab aware player. These guys do know some of the warning signs of trick stabs, but they don't actually know how to avoid them as well as they think they do.
Right.
These are the kinds of players to predict you're about to attempt a matador or stair stab, but sometimes run at you anyway thinking they can somehow avoid it. They tend to let their spy-killing overconfidence get the better of them. And at the far right, we have the stubborn player. These are the players that know many of the warning signs for trick stabs, and typically know how to counter them. They're the kinds of players that will very quickly punish you for even small telegraphs. Though while these players may be particularly difficult to trick stab, nobody is immune to trick stabs.
Yep,
no matter
100%.
where they sit on the spectrum, even if they think they are. But knowing roughly where people sit on this imaginary spectrum can help you judge how likely someone is to fall for it,
Right.
or even if it's worth attempting a trick stab in the first place. Remember,
Cloaker.
you don't always have to trick stab. You can fight them in other ways or just run. Players may also become more trick stab aware over time just based on past experiences. This heavy here got stair stabbed by me earlier in this same spot. I run up the same stairs again while he's chasing me. I turn around quickly and lo and behold, he isn't making that same mistake twice.
Right.
And I'm not going to jump because I know it won't work.
No.
Except, hey look, this other guy chases me up the stairs instead and suffers the exact same fate that heavy just avoided. The reverse can also happen where players become overconfident and drop their guard. This pyro air blasts me away to deny the sniper kill. I get away into this hole, but because they clowned on me before, almost trapping me, they get a bit too overconfident and drop their guard. They proceed to charge right at me, which gets them corner stabbed.
Rip.
And to add salt to their gaping stabbed wound, I also survived the encounter.
Amazing.
But being aware of other players, what they're doing and how they behave is not optional. Not just with trick stabs, but with spy as a whole. A lack of awareness and game sense will get you killed constantly. Figure out other players, figure out the game state, figure out your own options, and learn to make quick decisions. But okay, you've heard enough about all this theory stuff. What about the actual trick stabs themselves? Now, there are way more trick stabs than what I'm going to show, but this is supposed to be an introduction.
Right.
So I'll be going over the concepts that are easy to understand starting out. Speaking of things that are easy to understand, this one is very easy. You jump down to someone below you and stab right before or just as you hit the ground. It's basically a slightly flashier backstab, but being able to pull this off does a good job showing your proficiency with knowing the backstab hitbox.
Right.
If you're able to pull these off, it'll help a ton with everything else. It works on pretty much anyone below you. This one typically happens while you're disguised. You walk past your unaware victim in the opposite direction, and as you pass them, you quickly flick your aim to their back and stab. And again, if you're able to do this, you've got a good grasp on the hitbox. This also works on pretty much anyone as long as they're fooled by your disguise. Named after the art of Spanish bullfighting for a reason.
Right.
When someone runs in a straight line directly at you, as they reach melee range, you very quickly strafe either left or right, then swap to the opposite direction to stab them as they try to keep their aim on you. It's like dribbling a basketball, you know? Which way's it gonna go, huh? Which way's it gonna go? The Matador works against players running directly at you with just the W key. Remember this, because if they are using the A or D keys, do not attempt a Matador. Overconfident players that try to melee you are typically the ones that fall victim to a Matador. This is especially the case with new Pyro players, as Flamethrower burn people, WM1, go. In fact, it's worth
Look, WM1 goes hard. Look, I love playing Pyro.
mentioning that with a lot of Trickstabs, inexperienced Pyros, overconfident Pyros, or flog users can be really easy to bait and are basically Trickstab food. The Matador typically works well in open areas. Kinda like a Matador, but with a quarter.
Okay.
You run around a corner, but instead of continuing to run away, you run back around the corner as they round it to get to their back.
Right, okay.
Remember that if and when line of sight is broken, they can't tell if you've stopped or not. But doing suspicious things like looking back constantly can give away what you're planning.
It's physically impossible for them to know. By that same token, it is actually physically impossible for you to know if they're still pursuing you. All you have to do at that point, because all you really know at that point is that they were chasing you and if they're going to challenge you or not. So that actually requires a decent amount of player knowledge, not necessarily like game knowledge, right? But player knowledge and gauging how confident they are, but that you are also in a favorable position because now you're able to, if they do pursue you, you're able to roundabout to their outside and trick stab them or make your getaway, right? Either way, you can get into a favorable situation. Obfuscating the information is incredibly powerful. That information denial, it's why we say in card games, whether that's Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, whatever, right? Like, there's a reason your hand is closed, and there's a reason one of the most powerful things in a game is understanding what's in your opponent's hand, right? Like, and there are cards in games that say, just look at your opponent's hand, or like, when you add a card from deck to hand, you must reveal to confirm that you're not cheating, like you're adding what it meets criteria of what you're adding. But now that your opponent knows that you have something in your hand, or knows what's all in your hand, they will inherently play the game differently. Information denial is so important, it's literally used in warfare throughout history.
If the enemy takes the corner wide or doesn't take it at all, then it means that they saw it coming. This doesn't mean you have to break line of sight just to make a corner stab work, as this also just abuses the way players run around corners. Again, it works on anyone overconfidently charging right at you. But you will need to have a good sense of when the other player will round the corner, since you usually won't be able to see them until they do so.
Right.
You should start rounding back before you even see them again, or else it'll just give them time to react.
I love that.
Now, I won't talk about circle strafing for nearly 5 hours because there is a series of videos that does exactly that, and I would like to keep my audience retention.
Sure.
But I will explain the basics of the level 1 because it's the most common.
Audience retention, what's that? I see the funny timer. I see that people get like 18 minutes in and they're just like, nah, this skip guy yaps way too much.
If you're wondering what the heck I mean by level 1, like I said, the names can be a bit messy, so I'll just refer to it as the circle strafe from here on out.
Sure.
With the circle strafe, you're circling around a player to try and reach their back before they reach yours.
Makes sense.
You remember what I said about the Matador and not to use it on people using the A and D keys? Yeah, well, this is the opposite. You use this against people who are strafing at you instead of just holding W.
Right.
With the Matador won't work, the circle strafe probably will, and vice versa. Also, unlike the Matador, if your first swipe doesn't connect, don't change direction. Commit to whatever direction you were going because you'll eventually reach their back. If you swap after every miss, you'll just be losing progress on reaching their back.
Right.
It's much more gradual than a Matador.
You're attempting to keep them on the back foot by fighting them, by continuing to move in a direction to attempt to reach their back. Because at that point, they either show you their back and take the L, or they're forced to fight you and think on their feet and try to keep their back away from you. But you're pursuing them. It becomes a game of grab ass, right? Like, yeah, no, all of these concepts make sense.
Swap direction if you realize they're going to reach your back first, or you're about to bump into something. This
Yeah, makes
typically
sense.
works on players who are wary of basic trick stabs like the Matador, and are a bit more complex with how they approach you. Again, if they're using the A and D keys instead of just holding W, this is where it comes in. This is also quite a common stab against other spies, especially if they're trying to trick stab you.
Right. The Howling at the Stool.
Okay, this is the one almost everyone knows. You bait someone upstairs, then epically jump over their head to reach their back and stab them epically. I just said epically twice in the same sentence. When jumping, you'll want to crouch immediately after, as it pulls your hitbox up. This prevents you from bumping into your target, and it allows your knife to reach below you.
Okay.
Keep the crouch button held the entire time until after you land the stab. This is one you're going to need to learn a bit of rhythm to be able to pull it off properly, as it involves air movement.
Yeah.
This also works on people who run right at you. However, the stair stab is infamously known for being really easy to accidentally telegraph.
Yeah.
So, as mentioned earlier, unless they seem really oblivious, avoid just standing on top of stairs and waiting for them.
Well, actually, it should be called the stair stab because it doesn't actually require
You can use any inclined prop or elevated surface. If it gets you on top of the enemy, it can get you a stair stab. You can even use an engineer's own sentry to stair stab him. But hey,
I love that his name was Hot Schizo Girls. TF2 names are they're starting to rival Destiny names. Marasov's Bathwater, right? Shaq's OnlyFans. Oh my god, like this game is great.
Let's just keep calling it the stair step anyway, because it makes stuff like this less obvious to the enemy.
there's also other tricks you can use to hide the telegraph of a stair stab. As mentioned earlier, you can run around a corner to hide the fact you're waiting for them, you can run at them firing your gun but suddenly stair stab at the last second, or you could even do it without turning to look at them at all, which is often called the blind stair stab.
Right. I mean, but that's the thing. So when someone argues, well, it's technically an incline, so it shouldn't be called the stair step. Like, you're arguing semantics at that point, and I argue that it serves to only detract and pull away from the point at hand. Look, stair stab, reasonably, the logical common sense conclusion is that it's anything on an incline. A stair stab in concept, in practice, is going to be from an incline to jump over your opponent to effectively try to Anakin them, right? Well, I guess reverse Anakin, right? And get behind them to get the stab, right? This works on an incline. This works on a ramp. This works on stairs. This works on anything where the ground level is going from low to high, right? So what he brings up is effectively the equivalent of the fat electrician intermissions, right? Like, you can argue semantics, you can argue definitions all day, but the core identity of what you're doing, it's just a stair stab. Let's just keep it simple, right? Everyone knows what you're talking about.
The reverse scenario of the stair stab or drop stab. This is where a player drops onto you from above,
This is
and you
the
stab
Anakin.
them from below as they do so. Simply put, you need to predict where they're going to try and land,
Right.
and have them land on top but slightly in front of you. This can also be used to counter stair stabs, and is why stair stabbing other spies can potentially be really dangerous.
Yeah.
Not a super common scenario, though it's not particularly difficult to pull off when it does come up. As per usual, it works on players running right at you, but it's also worth noting that it's a really good trap against market gardening soldiers. Okay, so you remember that thing I mentioned in the last episode of being able to surf the damage of explosives to get away? Well, you can also use it to pull off what's known as a surf stab. It's exactly what it sounds like, surfing damage to land a trick stab. It doesn't even have to be the guy who was shooting at you, it could just be some random unfortunate bystander. This one does require a good amount of air control, so if you're already familiar with things like rocket jumping, you'll find this easier to pull off. It also doesn't have to be enemy rockets. It could be stickies, air blast, even undisguising on top of a sentry all work. Well, as long as it doesn't kill you. On the topic of disguises, remember that disguises make you immune to most forms of knockback. So if you intend to try surf damage, you should drop your disguise on purpose. I even have a bind so I can do it instantly by pressing the middle mouse.
Interesting. I'm going to have to set up a bind for that then.
Now, as cool as surf stabs are, opportunities for them can be somewhat rare, and they sometimes just occur by accident, only working out because of quick reflexes. Like I said, trick stabs are a mix of mechanics and mind games, but you can learn the mechanical execution of them with the help of two custom maps in particular, TR Walkway and TR Corner Stab. The former is general use for all classes, and the latter is specifically for Trickstabs.
Right.
But both are useful for different Trickstabs. Now, if you don't know how to install custom maps, I made a tutorial on the second channel, which is linked in the description.
I'm gonna have to do that. I wanted to definitely see some of these custom maps.
Anyway, both of these maps, when set up correctly, allow you to practice moves on training bots that walk along a predetermined path, but can potentially teach you bad habits if you're not careful.
Sure.
Most notably, the bots will never react to you whatsoever.
Right.
This is what they're supposed to do, but remember to keep telegraphs in mind, since what would normally work on a bot that walks in a predictable line might not work on a player that can react to things and fire more than 3 neurons.
This is what we were talking about with or what I was trying to allude to with the mechanical skill versus lack of theoretical skill, right? With the medic and the stair example.
When running one of these training maps, your computer itself is the server, so you'll literally have a perfect connection.
Right.
If your average ping in games isn't super low, or sometimes kinda sucks, you can try using the net fake lag command to simulate the ping you're typically at. And before you ask, no, the client doesn't work in normal games. Now,
Fair.
where to actually practice specific stabs. And keep in mind, these are just my recommendations and not gospel. Modify what feels right to you.
What a great soundtrack.
There are these platforms above the walkway that extend out. You can pretty easily use them to practice drop stabs. There's a spot for it on corner stab as well for shorter heights, but walkway should give you a better initial feel. The bots will walk in a straight line and won't look at you, so just run past them and learn how to flick your knife towards them. There's this room here specifically for practicing these kinds of techniques, where an engineer bot will chase you, but not attack. If you stand still, it'll run at you in a straight line. You can also spawn these heavy bots to attempt this technique on a less mobile target.
Sure.
Corner stab, obviously. Yeah, these bots will walk around these corners mimicking the way real players do it. The same room from before. If you start moving instead of standing still, the engineer bot will begin strafing at you. Walkway has this slope that's obviously really good for it, the steepness and height of which can be adjusted, allowing you to learn to stair stab at different heights. However, the slope on corner stab gives you much less warning, helping you train your reactions.
Right.
And that one room mentioned earlier also has a bunch of props that you can also use to practice. Note that after you jump, you should typically be letting your momentum carry you. When starting out, I'd actually recommend letting go of the WASD keys as soon as you jump and just hold crouch.
Makes sense.
However, once you get the initial execution of the stair stab down, stop just doing this.
Right.
Because you're teaching yourself to do it against real players. Instead, try mixing it up by shooting at them first before jumping, running around in circles instead of standing still, or doing blind stair stabs without looking at them.
Right.
You want to be able to just suddenly do a trick stab as you decide to do it, rather than always having to plan it out way in advance, possibly giving time to react.
Which makes sense. You are dealing with movement and action economics, right? Like streamlining your movement and streamlining your actions, right? You are doing that in tandem with getting that muscle memory down, right? Like, it should be second nature to you. And you're still going to die. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's going to happen. Like, you are still going to get got. You're going to get got by some pipes. Some scout's going to be really aggressive with you. You might even get counter-spied, right? But you're still building those good habits. And it's going to be a lot of deaths even when you're thousands of hours in.
Right after the ramp, there's this little spot specifically designed for understabs. Not much else to say here. Just use it.
Yeah.
With a bit of setup. Set the bots to soldier, set them to fire slowly, turn down the deploy speed to 6 seconds, disable random crits, and you get this. The rockets will hit the ramp, allowing you to practice surf stabs.
That's
you can
cool.
adjust the angle of the slope to affect how the rockets launch you. You can also just learn rocket jumping to get a feel for surfing explosives as well.
Okay. I'm assuming this is a shortcut for a bunch of the other ones.
Spy is hard.
Yes.
There's a lot to learn, and it's easy to screw up if you don't make quick decisions. Backstab hitbox, cloak management, disguise acting, paranoia, game sense, improving from mistakes, using the gun, avoiding pyros, attacking engineers, combat, and of course, trick stabs. The class is complex and often stressful, It's very easy to die constantly, but getting good at playing what is widely considered the hardest class in the game, narrowly avoiding death around every corner, outsmarting the enemy that thinks you're just a free kill, getting in their head while not letting them get into yours, and dispensing far more lethality than they'd expect you to be capable of. Despite how weak everyone says the class is, getting good at Spy invokes a strong feeling of power. It's what makes Spy so engaging and fun to play once you know what you're doing. And with these videos, I very much hope to have opened the door for many new players. There's far more to learn beyond the scope of my videos. I'm not the only source of spy advice, and watching videos will only get you so far.
Right.
My videos may have set you along the right path, but it's up to you with how you take it.
I like the
as you
echo on the
learn to
mic.
understand the psychology of playing Spy. To learn Spy psychology.
I love it. What a good finale. I loved it. That was a baller outro sequence. This was a finale. I love this. This was objectively perfect. Like, I loved this entire series. Like, he's got such talent. I love videos and series like this, that because we covered not only the theoretical meta aspect, but we also covered this is how you gain the mechanical aspect of this. And Chad has it right. Spy is a class that requires commitment and willingness to be reflective of your mistakes, even as an expert. I think that this is one that I'm going to get hundreds, if not thousands of hours out of. Like, it's not a bit. Like, sure, I react to TF2 content, and, you know, sure, well, it makes sense that the dingus is going to stream TF2 content, but it's more than that, right? Like, there's something that just sells Team Fortress 2 where... I see Martin. There's something that just sells it versus a lot of modern games, and it genuinely comes down to, like, look, do I go buy something in a, you know, modern AAA game that I don't even know if it's going to be functional in the next year? I'm assuming you can have, like, not even like if TF2 official service went down, it feels like there's going to be, like, ways to still play the game, right? Like, you have to have an internet connection, right? But I don't know. Especially with the whole Stop Killing Games initiative and the controversy that's happened because of that, because of certain individuals, right? Like, Team Fortress 2 just feels like a good product. This is a video. This felt like a finale. This felt good. Because there's certain, you know, you'll watch certain YouTube series or certain videos, and it doesn't feel like a finale. It just feels like another part of the thing. This really did capture the feeling of, grats, we've watched however many videos are in this playlist, right? Now, we're going to take everything that you've learned, and now we're going to apply it. This felt like a true finale. This felt like it was a, cool, you're all cut up. Now let's talk about Trickstabs, right? And this was genuinely, probably, objectively, one of the best YouTube series I've ever watched. It blows my mind that this man is not more popular than he is. This was actually amazing. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I'm going to be playing a lot of Spy. I'll definitely have entire streams and entire VODs where I do nothing but play Spy, because I'm very curious to see where I start and where I end up. But thank you everyone for watching. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Jonto, for making an just honestly amazing and iconic series. This was just amazing to watch, and I can tell a lot of work went into this. And I hope that other people got as much value as I did out of them. and definitely going to be looking at picking up more Spy. But thank you everyone for watching. I will see you all in the next one.